Writer Studio is hybrid. We're a part-time program, so it's a program that works around your work life and your domestic commitments, etc. So, because this is the reality of a writer, you have to learn how to write and deal with the rest of your life. You don't, hide yourself away and write all day. Nobody does that. Our program is also unusual because our mentor chooses who they work with. So right away when you come into the program, there's a kind of a contract there that mentor, who's a professional author, wants to work with you and really likes your writing and feels they have something to offer you. We also have a big emphasis on giving a reading. Because the reading is still one of the main modalities of getting your work out there, whether you're doing it, in a cafe or through an organization like the studio.
But if you wanted to hoot and yip and call them doggies, well, you had to crawl out of a warm sleeping bag.
This is a community event for our writers to launch their work, to try out some of their new words, older words, and just to sort of network and bond with other writers in the community. It's a real opportunity to share your words and to build your own confidence for the words that you're putting on paper and then in turn putting out on a mic. Just to have that support from other writers and readers and listeners. Having gone through the Writer Studio program myself, it was always encouraged to try your work, and so I kind of got a taste for reading and sharing my work, and then I just didn't want to leave, so I'm now co-hosting.
Well, it's really interesting because when people come into the Writer's Studio, some of the people who are absolutely terrified of giving a reading, they just think, I can never do this. I'm going to faint when I get up there. By the end of the year, they become some of the best writers in terms of being able to give a really good reading.
Breathe, relax, maybe have a glass of wine beforehand if that relaxes you, but it's nothing to be nervous at because we're all in the same situation. We're all trying our own words out. So just smile, look up, get eye contact with the audience.
As the sky grew dark, the wind intensified to gale force.
I'm a writer from Crescent Beach near White Rock, but I'm delighted to take part in the art scene here in Vancouver. It's very alive. I think it's very important because a lot of people don't realize there's so many writers out there, poets, people who write for magazines, people who write novels like myself. It's good to also to encourage a lot of young writers who are up and coming and makes them feel, whoa, it is important to write.
I love writing, but I think there's something about bringing your words out there and letting other people engage with them and kind of experience it. They sound different when you read them on the page, and it can be kind of nerve-wracking. But I think it's a really great experience. I think the literary scene in Vancouver has a lot going on. There's a lot of potential for emerging writers like myself, and of course a reading event like this put on by the Writer Studio is just fantastic.
I've never done this before. I've always, when I've been performing, and this is a form of performing, it's always been kind of under my control with a camera. And, if you say the wrong thing in the wrong order, you can always do it again, and the audience never sees that. So this, of course, is one of the great social fears of all time, speaking in front of a crowd. And people might think that just because you've earned your living for many years on television, you wouldn't have that kind of anxiety. But I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think that so many people write and never really have a sense of where the audience is. I suppose getting out into something like this gives them a real chance, as I say, for direct feedback.
So for one long week in July, I found myself part of a meandering, clopping line of 300 people.
It's very satisfying. And it can take so long before your work gets published, right? It can take years sometimes if you're working on a big, long form like the novel. So it's a way to reach your audience. It's a way to have that connection with your reader, and that's really important.